It's the Fitness Lab Pittsburgh podcast, a new episode every week. A podcast about movement, part of making your life complete. Fitness Lab Pittsburgh, aka FitLabPGH, brings you interviews with people in the Pittsburgh area who understand movement is part of what makes life complete. Looking for a new movement idea or just want to hear interesting stories about people who make movement a priority? This is the podcast for you. Whether you consider the gym, dojo, or fitness studio your third place, or just want to learn more about movement, activity, and fitness to enhance your life, give FitLabPGH a listen. We interview locals in the Pittsburgh area who make Pittsburgh a great place to move. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play, or check out our website for other subscription options. Subscribing is free and gives you notifications when we release new episodes. Each podcast episode will be long enough to pique your interest and short enough to hold your attention. Have an idea for an episode? Know somebody we should interview? Or just want to connect with us? Drop us an email, fitlabpgh@gmail.com, or follow us on Twitter or Instagram at fitlabpgh. Already a fan of FitLabPGH? Check out our sister podcast, Moving to Live. Moving to Live is a podcast for movement professionals and amateur aficionados. Moving to Live offers weekly interviews with movement professionals featuring topics from career development to coaching tips and education resources to advice for parents of student athletes. We look forward to hearing from you, and we hope you enjoy our next interview, starting now. FitLabPGH, along with our sister podcast, Moving to Live, firmly believe that we should treat movement as a lifestyle, not just an activity. That's why FitLabPGH brings you a podcast most Sunday evenings and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a 1-minute movement tip or lifestyle hack video that you can find on all the social media channels, as well as on Thursday, a FitLabPGH Features, where we have a written feature of a mover in the Pittsburgh area. If you like what you're hearing, leave us some feedback on Apple Podcasts or whatever the podcast app you listen to us on, or drop us an email and let us know what you think. If you want to be featured on the FitLabPGH Features, go to the FitLabPGH website, click on the FitLabPGH Features info link, and get started with filling it out to be featured. Pretty excited about the interview we're bringing you next. All of us have eaten various types of sports nutrition, bars, gels, and drinks, and I think we can all agree that most of them don't taste very good. Today, we're going to be bringing you an interview with Maribeth Ewing of FENIX Bars. She is a local Pittsburgh area person who is making protein bars that actually taste good and have ingredients that you can recognize on the label. FitLabPGH is back with another podcast episode. Today, I'm kind of excited because although I'm not in a coffee shop, I did not have to cross a bridge or go through a tunnel. We are at Mecka Fitness in Mount Lebanon. We are talking to Maribeth Ewing, who is the owner, founder, chief baker, and all-around person of FENIX Fit Bars. FENIX Fit Bars. I told you I was going to mispronounce that, Maribeth. I apologize. So FENIX Fit Bars were introduced to us probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago by our pharmacist, Leah, at CVS Target, South Hills Village, who we were talking while waiting to fill up a prescription. And she said, "Hey, have you tried these energy bars in Pittsburgh?" And I said, "What energy bars? What one in Pittsburgh?" And she gave me a sample of one. The particular flavor was the Mia. And I went home, and as I do with many of our potential guests, I stalked the founder on Facebook and Instagram and contacted her and said, "Hey, do you want to talk to a podcast?" And she said, "Sure." So Maribeth, thank you for taking time on a Saturday afternoon to talk to us about FENIX Fit Bars.
Thank you very much.
My first question, we always start out with people that we ask for FitLab Pittsburgh are you a Pittsburgh native? If so, why are you still here? If not, why did you come here and why are you still here?
No, I am not. I'm from Ohio, a city called Warren, Ohio, by Youngstown, and moved here about 5 years ago. Family business here in town called Mediterra Bakehouse and Mediterra Cafe. And so all my children and grandchildren are here.
And I have to break in and say, if you are not familiar with Mediterra Bakehouse, it is by far the best bread in Pittsburgh.
Yes, it is.
And I know Maribeth, in addition to being a baker and inventor and founder of energy bars, is an athlete herself. So you are, what would you describe yourself if somebody says, what do you do movement-wise?
I weight lift and some cardio when I have to prep for a show, but I have not competed in 15 years. So this is my big comeback into the NPC women's physique category. And hopefully I will be turning pro this year.
And NPC, that is what?
National Physique Committee.
And this is what some people may refer to or think of as bodybuilding. Is that correct?
Yes. Bodybuilding, bikini, figure fitness.
Curious about this. You said you have not competed for 15 years. How long did you compete before? Like 15 years ago, how long did you compete as a physique competitor?
Well, physique wasn't around at that time. It was women's bodybuilding. They've changed it, but I was in women's bodybuilding. I started out, it was 10 years I competed. I started as a lightweight, went up to a middleweight, and ended up as a light heavyweight, and was a national title competitor.
I'm always curious of people's stories as they grow up. Were you an active kid? Were mom and dad active, or were you of the generation where mom and dad said, "Get the heck out of the house and don't come back"?
Yeah,
till dinner
well,
time?
Our age, you were always outside. But I was a swimmer. I swam through middle school, high school, and college, and was a national swimmer.
And I know at some point people always have the idea when they're swimming or doing any other sport, it's like, oh, maybe I can go to the Olympics. Was that ever a thought for you?
No.
Or was there the realistic thought is like, okay, I enjoy doing this, but I'm not a world-class swimmer?
Right. It was more for, I've always been very competitive, but I knew my limitations at that point.
And then you finish the swimming, you get out of college. Do you immediately go into bodybuilding, or do you kind of take time off, or you do other activities?
Week after college, graduated from college, got married. A month after that, I was pregnant. 4 kids later, and we had a business which was a specialty food store, and I was a chef and a caterer. I got very sick with Graves' disease when, how many years? 30 years ago, after my daughter was born, and was diagnosed and had to have radiation treatment, and still kept going to the doctor afterwards. Just wasn't feeling good, and the doctor said, if you don't do some type of physical activity, you're going to be in here all the time. So figured, let me go to the gym. I used to weight train for swimming. But my personality is, I'm not just going to do something to enjoy it. I have to do it to compete. So that's how it started. And, first show I did, I won first place, and every show I did, I was always in the top 5 or would win the overall.
What were your friends' thoughts when you first started doing the bodybuilding, or your kids' thoughts? Did they look at you like you were crazy, or did they say, "That's great, Mom, that's pretty cool"?
My mother hates it and still does to this point. Old Italian schooled. My 2 older boys, they actually became my training partners and would get me ready for shows. So my kids were always very supportive. Not that they would never want to do it themselves, but they supported me. But yeah, it was kind of out of the norm.
And what about your friends? What did they think?
Well, I became more friends with people in the gym at that point then. Similar interests.
And I know some people are out there listening and they're going, well, I understand going to the gym and I understand lifting weights or doing cardiovascular, but what's this physique or bodybuilding? Kind of briefly for people who don't understand what this sport is, can you describe it?
Well, it's, to me, I look at it as an art form. It's sculpting your body and taking it to a place that, really, you have to have the discipline, patience, because it doesn't happen overnight, and the will to. It's mainly diet is what bodybuilding is, and I love very aggressive, heavy weight training. That's just like my style. There's so many other things you can do to stay physically fit, but that's just what I enjoy. So, then you get on stage in a little 2-inch bikini and, you get judged for how you look. So.
And I think you hit on a point that diet is very important with that. Obviously, hard work is very important with that. And how much is genetics important for that?
Very, very. I couldn't have gone as far as I did if just genetically my symmetry wasn't there, or, the shape of my muscle bellies and that type of thing. But I mean, there's so many people actually, in July, there's the Master Nationals down at the Station Square, and they have weight classes of men 70 and over. And to see these gentlemen, and a lot of them, I mean, they're just doing it because that's their hobby. And it's just incredible to see where you can take your body, even when you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s.
Other than weightlifting for the physique competitions, any other favorite movement activities that you do in your, and I know this is kind of saying it jokingly, spare time?
My spare time is I have 7 grandkids under 4. I watch them every day, Monday through Friday. So that's my activity.
I have to ask, if you can't make it to the gym, did you ever use a grandchild as a weight for resistance training?
Just getting them in and out of my van over here.
I know one of the things that people often comment on as they get older, I've got a client who is a runner and a cyclist, and his comment was, as he ramps up his training, he goes, God, it's actually true what they say. You don't recover as fast as you do when you get older. So you said you competed 15 years ago. You're getting back into doing it. Have you noticed a significant difference in the amount of time it takes you to recover? And what do you do so that you continue to do that, as far as recovery methods that maybe 15 years ago you'd go, I'd never do
they don't,
like that.
Well, the recovery methods don't work anymore. Or even like a lot of the pre-workout drinks that give you energy. I mean, if I don't have energy, it's not going to happen with a pre-energy drink. But it's true. Age, no matter how good you look, how much you take care of yourself, you can't deny age. But to stay fit and active really makes a difference, because I have RA and lupus and several other autoimmunes, and if I don't exercise, I would feel so much far worse than I was if I wasn't doing it at all.
And I'm curious, I know that people with RA sometimes have flare-ups. When you have a flare-up, what do you do? Do you still try to do some sort of physical activity, or do you do nothing at all?
I have to be smart at this point. I used to push myself beyond, but with the flare-ups, with the lupus flare-up, the RA flare-ups, I can't do HIIT training, on a treadmill or anything, because it's just too much exertion for my body for cardio. But I just rest that day. You just take that day off, and get back at it the next day.
And did you have the attitude 15 years ago when you were doing this, rest? Yeah, that's something for other people.
Never rest. No. And I was warned by my trainer at the time was Gary Udit, and he said, don't lift like you're doing. You're going to regret it. And I'm like, nah. And you do regret it.
This is one of my favorite questions I always like to ask people who have been active in doing one sort of activity for a long period of time. If you could look back at yourself 15 or 20 years ago when you were a competitor, what's the 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you wish you knew then that you now know?
Well, I have to say I was very fortunate, because I was a single mom with 4 kids. So I had a balance in my life where that didn't become the all and end all of my life, was being in the gym. I'd go in an hour, I'd come home. Sometimes people take fitness to the extreme where that becomes, everything that they think about. But my kids really balanced me in that sense. And I can't say don't lift as heavy, because I still try to do that. So I think I don't have any regrets when it comes to it.
So clearly I am not somebody who's going to compete in a bodybuilding competition, given my genetics and my predilection for exercising outside for long periods of time with my heart rate up. But I do know that in bodybuilding and physique competition, as you said, diet is very important. How does one go as a chef and a physique competitor, and now you've developed your own energy bar or food bar, sports bar that actually tastes like real food? How does that play into account? How did you come up with that idea?
When I competed before, I love baking while I'm competing. I love the smell of it. It kind of takes care of the senses of it. And I mean, I was a pastry chef for so many years that, it was just something that It's just discipline of not putting it in your mouth. And I can smell something, and actually when I'm baking, I can smell and tell it what it needs. I'm just really gifted in that sense. So, just discipline. That's all it is.
We're talking with Maribeth Ewing. She is the owner of
FENIX Fit Bars.
FENIX Fit Bars. Somebody is listening to this, and I know you're a relatively new company, still working to get your name noticed. What are FENIX Fit Bars?
FENIX Fit Bars are, I call them the Bentley of protein bars, or the Godiva of the protein bars. Shelf life is only 3 weeks, refrigerated, all natural, organic, gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan. I use stevia as the base. The vegan chocolate I use is made with stevia as well. So the sugar content is low. The shelf life, like I said, is just 3 weeks. They can be frozen, so you can keep them in the freezer, but most of the individuals that purchase them, or gyms, they don't stay in stock that long, so we're good that way.
And I know some people are going to wonder, why do they have to be refrigerated?
There's no fillers, no GMOs, no preservatives. I shipped them to Kind Bar Company. I know a gentleman there, and he was the one that determined my shelf life. And he actually did call me back, and he said because he said, I'm going to send you the best protein bar I've ever had. And I told him, I'm going to send you the best protein bar you'll ever have. And so I sent it to him. He called me right away, and he's like, this is the best protein bar. He said, now, if you want to extend the life of it, we can do that, but it's going to change the texture and the taste of it. And I said, no, I mean, we make a salad, or we get steak, vegetables. They only have a shelf life of so long. Why shouldn't the protein bar that you eat just have a short shelf life? I mean, it's not hard to purchase a new one every day or whenever you want it. So, the key is just all natural. Whole foods is what it is in it. And there's just, you can pronounce everything on the back of the label.
That was one of the things I noticed when I was given one by Leah. As I looked at the ingredients, like, I actually know what each of these ingredients are.
Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
So there are a multitude of flavors. How many different flavors of the bars do you have?
I have 7 current flavors. And then I have seasonal flavors. The current flavors are, they're all named after my grandkids. The first one's the Doxy, and it's the chocolate peanut butter. Then there's the, Nico, and that's the triple chocolate energy bar. That's a dark chocolate bar, and it has as much caffeine as a cup of coffee.
That's my favorite, by the way.
Is it? Yeah. And then there's the, Maximus, and that is, a chocolate chip caramel. I use local ingredients if I can. Rivendale, has, a maple syrup farm in Swickley. And so I use their, maple syrup to make my caramel, my gluten-free caramel. Let's see. I got to go through my grandkids and think. What's the other little guy? Oh, the Maximus is the Rocky Road. The Marco is the chocolate peanut butter. Then there's the Isa Pisa. And that is the white chocolate, toasted almond coconut. Tastes like a, almond tort. Then there's the Mia, which is the mocha mint, which I use a little bit of peppermint schnapps as for my simple syrup with the stevia. And then named after my daughter who had to have her own bar, is the mini, which is the newest, and it's the red velvet. Very good one. And then I have another new grandchild. His name is, Constantine. So that'll be the Costa cookies and cream. That will be coming out probably in the next month or so.
And I'm curious, with your grandkids, do the ones who have the bars named after them, are those their favorite flavors, or some of them like other flavors?
They're with me a lot when I'm baking in the bakery. So, they'll go, "Are you making my bar? Are you making my bar?" They love them all. And actually, that's the next line of fire is to make these bars smaller and to call them super wings. And, the kids love them, and they're high in fiber, no sugar. And the kids love them. And so it's like eating a little candy bar. So I would make them just a smaller size for children and different labeling.
You mentioned that in a previous life, you were a pastry chef and you are a physique competitor. Did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to make some protein bars? Or how did you come up with the idea to say, we're going to have FENIX Fit Co?
I was still doing catering and pastries on the side. And so I do these real exotic cheesecakes, like white chocolate lavender and baklava and different cheesecakes. And I mean, they sold and they were great, but like, how do you promote fitness and the way I look if I'm making, pastries? So, and when I diet for a show, that was the one thing people would say, what do you want when you get done? And I'd say a protein bar. I mean, really weird, but then when I'd eat it, it was like, it didn't satisfy me. I'm like, why was I wanting that? It doesn't even taste good. So, it took me about a year of developing the baseline recipe. And, now people give me suggestions of which ones they want. Cookies and cream, of course, people love that. And, so that'll be the next one. I have a pumpkin pecan spice for Thanksgiving. That actually is Kevin from Mecka, the owner of Mecka, his favorite. And I do an apple, pie crumble bar, which is really great for the fall.
And these are all, if I remember correctly, somewhere between about 220 and I think there's one that maybe go as high as 295 calories for a bar.
I don't know if they go that high. Maybe that could be the Rocky Road because of the vegan marshmallows.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
But I also noticed, and this is me having to hack everything, is it's very easy to cut them in half with a knife and just put it in a Ziploc bag.
If you can.
if you can.
But they're very filling and they keep you, because the base is organic, either black beans, dark red kidney beans, or great northern beans. The fiber's high in them, so it keeps you satisfied and full. It's more, I look at it as more of like a replacement if you don't have time, a replacement meal.
And I'm curious because as a pastry chef and making all these decadent desserts, and you just described, I'll use the wrong terminology. I think you said filler is various types of beans. I know cooking in a non-luxurious way as far as having to watch what the ingredients are. How difficult was that to say, okay, rather than just throwing whatever kinds of fats and flavors in, I have to be very careful because I want to make these healthier. How did you figure out what beans to use?
Well, I guess like the red velvet, I use the dark red, and I use a organic beet powder for the color red in it. And plus it gives you extra antioxidants. I just wanted to make them as natural and as whole, and you can get flavor from, natural things. You don't need most of the fillers in that they put in is to make it so that it can sit on a shelf for 2 years. And that's why I could never sell them, say like at a GNC or have them distributed, because that's the requirement of a protein bar is they have to have a shelf life of at least a year to 24 months. So, I look at mine as more of a couture type of bar.
Each flavor, how long does it take? If somebody was going to come up with a flavor idea and they're going to say, I want a whatever it is, how long do you think it would take for you to figure out a recipe and develop it?
I do that at night when I sleep. In fact, my one employee just asked me, how did you come up with this? And I said, even when I was catering and I'd have to figure out a menu, I would sleep on it for so many nights, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night, write down the recipe, and it was pretty much what I needed it to be.
So I think for anybody who's listening, that's a message that sleep as a recovery method can also be valuable for thought processes.
Yes.
Somebody's listening to this, and I know just from searching around and asking questions and seeing on Instagram some of the posts you've had, some of the places they can buy it. But this is not just for people in the Pittsburgh area. You will actually ship them too. Is that correct?
I ship usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays across the country. right now I can bubble wrap them, ice pack them, and ship them. Summertime I use dry ice, and they get there in 2 days and they're fine.
Somebody's listening to this will have extensive show notes with your social media sites, etc. But how do they find out where they can find the bars in the Pittsburgh area?
My Instagram is the easiest way. It's FENIX Fit, FITCO. And you just direct message me, and I'll tell you everything you need to know, cost-wise, shipping-wise, all the flavors and any other questions you have about nutritional facts.
We've had the good fortune to talk to Maribeth Ewing. She is the owner of FENIX Fit Bars. My favorite is the one that has peanut butter in it, but I've tried, I believe, each of the flavors other than the seasonal ones, and none of them are what I would describe as bad. And I think I can safely say that I actually, from a different company, which shall remain nameless, the new company out west, I ordered a box of bars just because they looked interesting. I've tried 2 of them so far, which consists of taking a mouthful and spitting it in the garbage. They do not taste good. Unlike FENIX Fit Bars, as I said, they taste like real food. And Maribeth is not handing me bars to say this. So Maribeth, I want to thank you for talking to FitLab Pittsburgh. I'm looking forward to the fall when you have the pumpkin one come out.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of FitLabPGH, brought to you by Moving to Live. Intro and exit music is Marathon Man by Jason Shaw. Check out the show notes for contact info for our latest guests, links to other information mentioned in the episode, and links to our sister podcast, Moving to Live. Moving to Live is a podcast about movement and exercise for professionals and amateur aficionados. Moving to Live offers topics from career development to coaching tips and education resources to advice for parents of student athletes. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play, or check out our website for other subscription options. Your free subscription gets you notified when we release a new episode. Questions, comments, suggestions? Email us at fitlabpgh@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at fitlabpgh and like us on Facebook. If you enjoy our podcasts, please tell your friends about us and consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Make FitLabPGH a go-to place to learn more about movement in the Pittsburgh area. Until next time, keep on moving.